balance of our time.
I'll recognize Mr. Flores for 9 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me start at the outset by saying this. Every member of this committee supports our veterans, period. This committee, when it comes to veterans, is much like the House Veterans Affairs Committee. It's bipartisan. It's committed to our veterans, and we do all that we can to make sure that they receive excellent services from the federal government's second largest bureaucracy. That's why this budget calls for increasing discretionary spending for veterans programs by $410 million, which fully funds the President's fiscal year 2015 discretionary request. Let me repeat that, fully funds the President's request, and why this budget makes no cuts whatsoever to veterans' benefits. Furthermore, this budget matches the President's advance appropriations request for veteran medical care for fiscal 2016. Again, it matches the President's request. We all want to make sure the veterans and their families get all the benefits, health care, and support services that they've earned through their service and sacrifice to our nation. The question is, what's the best way to do this? My colleagues on the other side of the aisle would throw more money at the VA in a quicker fashion, even though the VA's budget has grown by 84% in the last 10 years. So the question is, how have they spent that money? What's been the outcome? And this comes from the House Veterans Affairs Committee VA Accountability Watch Service. And I quote, despite the fact that multiple VA Inspector General have linked many VA patient care problems to widespread mismanagement within VA facilities and GAO findings that VA bonus pay no longer has a clear link to performance, the Department has clearly defended its celebration of executives at the VA who provided over these events by giving them glowing performance reviews and cash bonuses. Matter of fact, in one of our hearings, we found out the VA has only fired one senior employee for substandard behavior, even substandard performance, even though this is widespread through the VA. In 2013, the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform issued a report highlighting how the VA mismanaged funds and wasted millions of taxpayer dollars on extravagant conferences for employees. On a bipartisan basis, the HVAC has expressed concern regarding VA's progress in eliminating the disability claims backlog, despite significant increased funding for the veterans' benefits in recent years. In the bipartisan fiscal year 2015 views and estimates letter, which was provided to this committee yesterday by the HVAC notes that the committee is concerned with the VA's ability to meaningfully reach its 2015 goals for the processing of veterans' disability benefits claims, including eliminating the backlog by the end of that fiscal year. In their fiscal year 2015 views and estimates letter, the HVAC also mentions the failure of the VA to sufficiently meet the mental health care needs of our nation's veterans. It states that from 2007 to 2013, the VA's mental health care budget, programs, and staff have increased significantly. However, there's not been a corresponding increase in mental health care outcomes for veterans. This is illustrated most alarmingly in the administration's 2012 suicide data report, which found that the suicide rate among veterans has remained stable for 14 years, with between 18 to 22 veteran suicides per day since 1999. So the context for the proposal to increase taxes by $1 billion and to initiate a new temporary entitlement. What I would ask the Budget Committee to do is think about a different way to look at this other than a new federal program. As Ronald Reagan used to observe, government programs, once launched, never disappear. Actually, a government bureau is the nearest thing to eternal life that we'll ever see on this earth. But if we look at alternative views, recently several corporations, including J.P. Morgan and Home Depot, have launched programs to hire veterans, and they've been fabulously successful, hiring up to almost 250,000 veterans, way above their initial goal. And that was done without a new, huge federal bureaucracy spending billions of hardworking taxpayer dollars. It was done by the private sector working together in a collaborative way with the government. So I would propose that we not have a new federal entitlement program. What I would propose is that we look outside government and propose, for instance, in an industry that is struggling to find an adequate number of employees, like the energy industry, why don't we work collaboratively with the energy industry to take veterans who are skilled, disciplined, and have the right work ethic to help put together another public-private program so that we can put our veterans to work without spending billions of taxpayer dollars. Also, with respect to the pay for this program, this is the first time this one's been brought up. You've heard about, you'll hear it many times today. Yes. The pay for that's been proposed, for every dollar that is raised through that pay for, the amendments are using that, and they're going to spend it about 10 times. As a CPA, that is math that doesn't work. And so I think the folks that are listening to C-SPAN will hear that pay for over and over and over again. Now, with respect to advance appropriations for the VA receives about 85% of its funding on an advance appropriations basis already. What this amendment would do is advance the other 15% a year earlier than normal. The problem with that is that it makes oversight by the HVAC much more difficult than it already is, since the VA's funding is virtually assured for 85% of its budget. They can ignore the request of Congress, and the VA has a history of doing that. If we advance appropriate the rest of VA's money, it will be much harder to deal with the issues that we just described earlier in my part of the conversation on this amendment, not easier. And so I would propose that we continue to provide more oversight, not less oversight, and not do anything from a funding perspective that would make that oversight more difficult. So, Mr. Chairman, I urge a no vote on this amendment, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back, so Mr. Yarmouth gets a minute. And with that, I'd like to give the rest of the time to Mr. Flores.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I applaud the amendment being offered by Ms. Lee, but I will say that I think the approach is wrong, though. I mean, the single best solution, as someone who grew up starting in this house after we moved out of a trailer house, I know firsthand what the American dream's like. And we didn't get out of that house from government benefits or food stamps. We got out by hard work. And so what are the building blocks that eradicate poverty? More jobs and better paychecks. With a better paycheck, you can feed a family, you can house a family, you can educate a family, you can grow the local tax base, you can create a vibrant middle class. And we need to quit talking about minimum wages and unemployment. We need to be talking about things that cause employment and a vigorous economic growth so that we don't have to worry about minimum wages and unemployment, because they're irrelevant, because we'll have more people working than struggling down in poverty. The policies that have passed have failed, just like the chairman said, and we need to look at a new approach. And I think that any new approach we take a look at needs to focus on what can we do to build the economy first. And that could be things like balancing the budget. We've heard the positive scores we got at the CBO for balancing this budget. We need to look at a patient-centered private sector solution toward health care instead of the government down approach that we've had so far. We need to look at American energy security. We need to look at regulatory reform. We need to look at tax reform. I mean, heck, we can even look at immigration reform done in pieces on a step-by-step approach. Those are the things that will do more to eradicate poverty than any big bureaucratically driven, big government deficit building solution. And so I'm with the chairman. I would urge a no vote, but I'd look forward to continue the discussion so we can come up with real-world solutions to eliminate poverty. And I'd like to do it in my lifetime. Thank you. I yield back.
Texas, Mr. Flores is recognized for 9 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I appreciate the gentlelady's introduction of this amendment. That both sides of the aisle appreciate the need for strong basic research, particularly in the area of health, that is carried out by the NIH. And so with that in mind, I think it's the good thing that we can say here is to put everybody's mind at ease is that this budget makes no cuts, again, no cuts to NIH funding. Our budget reflects a strong support for NIH's core mission to invest in basic biomedical research as a key investment to uncover new knowledge that can lead to better health and disease cures for everyone. And as the representative for 3 great research and education institutions in Texas that include 2 AAU members, Texas A&M University and part of the University of Texas system, that each do hundreds of millions of dollars a year of annual federal research, I think I've got some knowledge on this particular issue regarding the value of basic research. And the question is, really 2 questions: how much, and how do we oversee what NIH does with the money? The NIH has 27 institutes and centers that fund research across a wide array of health-related topics. In addition, it supports more than 300,000 scientists and research personnel affiliated with more than 3,100 organizations worldwide. However, in tough budget times, every agency that supports public health and research, including HHS, must collectively work together to ensure that all these resources are spent in the most effective manner to avoid duplication and waste and to coordinate activity toward collective public health or research goals and objectives. It's important to know spending on NIH nearly tripled from 2007 to 2010. Hear that again, nearly tripled from 2007 to 2010. And a 2009 GAO report found that gaps in NIH's ability to monitor key aspects of its extramural funding process arose during this time. If you look across the federal agencies that support public health and research, a number of their activities appear to overlap. For example, starting with NIH, then the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, the CMS Innovation Fund, the CDC, the Health Resources and Service Administration, and other components of HHS all support health services research. I think that all of us agree that it's imperative that we spend our taxpayer resources wisely. There are also recent news reports that taxpayer funds entrusted to the NIH are being spent to support a variety of questionable projects, including grants examining the public health education and campaigns in China. Why do we want to spend American dollars on research in China? NIH has funded a grantee in California with nearly $7 million over the years to study tobacco. And we can all agree that's appropriate, but one of the studies asserts a link between the Tea Party and the tobacco industry. Why in the world are we spending taxpayer dollars to do that? NIH funded a grant of $500,000 a year that went to National Opinion Research Center to evaluate the impact of actual and potential government policies in Thailand. Another NIH grant appears on the surface to sponsor an advocacy group for the illegal development of lobbying-type material. Again, that's prohibited by law. The NIH Common Fund Economics grew from $5.4 million in FY2012 to $13 million estimated for fiscal 2013 to support research related to Obamacare. These activities aren't biomedical research. They don't make American families healthier. Another 1.7 million study is underway to see if doing traditional dances such as salsa and the cha-cha can spark more physical activity in older Latinos and improve their health. I think the answer is that's yes. Why do we want to spend taxpayer dollars to do that? So with that, I yield 4 minutes to Mr. Messer from Indiana.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Very much appreciate your comments.